Welcome back to Prospect Channels TV. My people, we don't come back again with another bunga update. Right now, I want to talk about all the trending things in Nigeria. This one will shock you as it be like this. I beg, subscribe to this channel. If you have not, share this video, make it go viral. I beg, like us. And don't forget to drop your comment below the comment section. So the matter now when they be say, APC don't they hit head for ground like this. According to waiting they happen now, APC don't they, hit head on the ground. A few days ago, we can't hear say the chairman of the national chairman of APC, in name Wemby Ganjude, okay, he don't resign as the national chairman of APC, and we don't see the here say the vice president Kasim Shettima is on his way coming to resign as well. Make we just leave that one, by the wayside. The matter now when they grant be say, una know the Senate president now, Godunok Babio. You don't come out can't tell other opposition parties. Say, see, Tinubu wants vibrant opposition. So put your houses in order. Hey, Okpabio they tell PDP and Labour Party. Imagine, nothing one person not go see for this country. Imagine now APC don't they advise other political parties when we say they opposition for Nigeria. Say may they carry their house put for order. Say because Tinubu wants a vibrant party. He said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu desires a strong and vibrant opposition in Nigeria. But wait, do we even have opposition party again? Are you sure President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will allow any opposition party to strive in Nigeria? The way he's going about this issue. Because the way I'm seeing this whole thing, I don't know whether I mean they do mistake. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is practicing this one-party system. That is what he wants to do. And that is where he is going right now. Just look at what is happening in Rivers State. What can we say about that? Can we say what is happening in, or what happened in Edo State? See Delta State. Everything just they happen very fast. You see, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, make I press down and put for them. So, coming back to someone when the advice person, right now, APC, you don't work out. You understand? Aliu Domer was talking the other day. He said, even people, when they decamp, they go APC, this and that. He said APC is just like a sinking ship. Say very soon it go collapse. May they not mind all those ones when just they come. He say the APC go soon capsize. The way the whole thing they go like this. So you see, Okpabio coming out to tell other opposition party in Nigeria, say make them put their house in order. The matter just get as it be, I meant to say. So it's not led for other parties, opposition parties in Nigeria to do the needful, because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not watch you and come and collect power from his hand. Even when he not there, he make sure say he collect the power. Nothing anybody not fit do. Not to talk of now when we say sit down for Gidigba. Meanwhile, Northerners say, hey, Tinubu no they go anywhere. I beg, I will drop this video because I watch.
This Congress battling to put down an insurrection, it seems, going by the chaos that disrupted at the party's zonal meeting in Gombe within the week. Political scene watchers, analysts, and party faithful alike are pondering what is really going on. Is there trouble in paradise? Is it about to go down? But staunch party loyalists and presidency insiders are saying not so fast. And as usual, calling it a fuss being created in the heads of those who do not wish the party well. It's being all about the presidential ticket, with President Bola Tinubu going into the 2027 presidential election. Vice President Kashim Shettima, according to some of the voices heard during the debacle, is being marginalized in the presidency, but must remain a part of that presidential ticket. Joining us now to have this conversation on the matter is Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Good morning, and it's good to see you on the morning show, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Amadi. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. Now, let's go straight into it. Before the debacle or the melee that we saw in Gombe State, the president did say in the National Assembly while giving his address to the nation that he was happy to see opposition parties in disarray, but it seems he might have spoken a little bit too soon, because it does seem that the APC is now facing their problems. Dr. Amadi, do you believe that the vice president is being sidelined in the presidency, and do you think that this is going to weigh in on the presidential elections as we head into 2027 election season?
Well, first, I think it was a bit of ironic, though, that the president, like you said, rejoiced and rightly said, I'm happy if the other party is in crisis because it's not my job to fix them. And then, not up to a week, he got his own happening right there. Again, let's be clear that the relationship between presidents and vice presidents or governors and their deputies are partly structural and a little bit of also psychological in terms of personality traits. And President Tinubu has clearly shown that he finds it difficult to work with deputies. As a governor, he had the distinction of the honor of having 3 deputies, and each of them got thrown out in very, chaotic and not palatable, process. And again, their career got ruined largely because of that outcome. Now we are dealing with something bigger than Lagos, and the idea, I think APC minders are right to say that at the level of picking a presidential candidate, you are picking a candidate. But again, conventionally, the language and the communication of endorsement will be very clear. Everybody knows that at this point, the president is the one who chooses the vice president. So even when we say, okay, who's the presidential candidate, it's not who is the presidential candidate and the vice at this point. But having been together as government, the normal language will always be Tinubu, Shettima. And so that omission, even though it might be legally not problematic, that omission is indication of a certain language control arising from the reality of politics. We know that vice presidents sometimes suffer under the shadow of presidents, and relationships are not always that good. From Atiku and Obasanjo, we got to Jonathan and the other, which was maybe better, and then later Sambo. I think the best was Jonathan Sambo that didn't have so much crisis. Then Buhari. Under Buhari, we saw the vice president Obasanjo, duteous, faithful, but again, it was clear that he was not perhaps getting all that he needs to have. But here, I think Shettima has been very, stoic, but the stories coming out is the one of displacement and possible replacement in 2027. Again, what would this mean? I think Tinubu, as somebody whose instinct is to do politics all the time, might be doing his calculations. And what we hear and what looks reasonable is that 2027 election will pose different challenge. In 2023, the Muslim ticket was resisted, but perhaps there was a sense in which the opposition was in disarray, and Tinubu, with his Lagos mystique, perhaps could look more acceptable. But after being in power 4 years, incumbents suffer. Every bad outcome is here failing, whether you had good faith, or rigorous policy intervention, but it failed. So the economy is looking bad at the level of households, even though some macroeconomic index may have moved in the positive light, but people are suffering and struggling, and the sentiment from the north everywhere. So some people are thinking that maybe he could focus on the middle belt as a zone to fight for, and that could trigger a need to have a compensation in the form of maybe a vice presidential candidate. Those are all still conjuncture. But what is clear is that this election is not an election you want to, incur block resentment. And so fighting Shettima, which is now being seen as fighting the North or the core North, or however he's been described as constituency, is not good for them. And what happened? The danger is that what happened in Borno has escalated too early. This notion, this has been something that will be in the background, and maybe when Tinubu clinches this ticket, somehow he springs a surprise, and before people react and adjust, communication goes into smother the foray. But they had shown the hand too early. It's not good for Shettima either, because looks like now a fight in your face that, look, my own camp says I must be in this ticket, and this camp doesn't want this ticket. So it further damages the relationship between the president and his vice politically, and again, it puts the president under the spotlight that now they are reading him, and if he finally displaces or disposes of Shettima, it's going to have a bigger political blowback than if it happened, surprisingly, and then you could communicate that in a manner that people will say, okay. But here, it's like they're pitched for war. So it's a real bad moment for Mr. President Tinubu's re-election. It's going to mobilize and feed into the growing quote-unquote anti-North position, and the coalition that is largely building from the North. So in my sense, it's a disaster. It should have probably managed better. They could have gone ahead with Tinubu Shettima all the way and leave that decision, like Tinubu people have argued, as a last decision that the president makes. In history, incumbent presidents always wrong with their vice, but Tinubu has proved that he's not an usual politician. We won't be surprised if Shettima is removed or replaced, rather.
All right, Dr. Amadi, I just want to first quickly correct one of the impressions that you gave, that all the three deputies that President Tinubu worked with while he was governor of Lagos State were badly thrown out. But I'd like to remind you that Prince too. Exactly, because Prince Abiodun Ogunleye, finished off the second term with him, and they are still very charming up till today.
You are correct.
Yeah.
You are right. Yeah.
Okay.
You are right. I wanted to say he had 3 deputies.
That's correct.
Thank you for the correction.
That's correct. But then the question will be that is this blame solely, if indeed there are issues that they are trying to sort, is this blame solely for the camp of the president? Or will you think that maybe the camp of the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has also not, in 2 years plus, not managed very well the relationship with the president? A lot of people would think that many of the things that the governor of Borno, Professor Zulum, a lot of the things that he's been saying about insecurity in Borno State, is vehement opposition to the tax reform bills, that it looked like he was speaking the mind of his own benefactor, who is the Vice President Kashim Shettima. Do you think that the Vice President could have weighed in, or was it the one actually sending Professor Zulum? And this might be the reason why the Tinubu camp so early are thinking that maybe it won't be a good choice, given the fact that Northeast anyway, APC controls only 3 of the 6 states there. PDP controls the other 3. So if it turns out that it won't be the best to run with, don't you think that the camp of the VP itself will have sown the seed of discord, given how Professor Zulum has conducted himself when it comes to issues about this government at the federal level?
I think you're right. I mean, we have to approach it at 2 levels. One is real politics. The other is also, a sense of maybe ethics, morality, and so on. Now, first, I made a point, maybe I should expand, that the way the camp of Shettima played out this script does damage to him, because look, no president would like to, be with a vice president where some political forces are saying you just have to be on this ticket. I mean, that's really, you don't expect that from any president. And again, somebody like Tinubu has proved to be tough and stubborn and, knows his worth. It's not the kind of president I think you could shove it into and say you just have to have this guy. So it's a wrong strategic move. That's why I say, if probably they were provoked by the clear omission, even if they played dead brain that they didn't see that omission, maybe they will stand a better chance, to still keep Shettima on the ticket through other political, insider dealings and networking and political move that shows that, look, you're going to lose if you drop this guy. So far, I think they were either reckless or they were not too strategic in playing up this rift. It didn't look good, or not just on Tinubu, but on Shettima, I think more, because it's not clear that perhaps some of his people who are supporting him, maybe not him, are now, kind of posturing to fight the president if he drops this guy. That's never a good thing to do, because the VP basically hangs on the president, and even constitutionally, the Section 5 power belongs to the president. It says the executive power is in the president, who can exercise it by either himself or his vice or ministers or any other person. So the constitutional theory the constitutional framework we practice is that the president is the chief executive, not even the fact. People don't understand that. So it means that even if Shettima is there, Tinubu, apart from where laws mandate that the vice president, like National Economic Council, the president can decide to do everything without him. So that's the other point you mentioned also is the political, landscape. Yes, APC is not as strong or didn't perform very strong, expectedly, from Northeast. And again, perhaps the reason why he was picked was also to counter the Atiku effect, because the main opposition leader before the elections come out, and still the main by result, Atiku Abubakar, who was a major challenger, needed to be neutralized. So maybe that was it. And again, Shettima was one of the earliest to embrace Tinubu for whatever reason, was with him, took very strong actions against the former vice president, calling him ice cream. So he was a darling of that camp. But what is clear in politics, especially if you look at the presidential politics, is that oftentimes the vice president becomes a victim of the post of that, not because of Tinubu doesn't like him. Many of the actors, many of the presidential aides, many of the other cabinet people would, in a way, play their game in a way that the vice president either is seen as a contending center of power in the presidency, or is seen as totally, irrelevant. So people will gravitate to the chief of staff, to the core people around the president, and that creates a situation of rivalry or contention. So many vice presidents may not manage that well. We saw Atiku Abubakar, a typical case with Obasanjo, where he was powerful, he had his group, and that cost him a lot. And then, or you see it with when Jonathan was with Yar'Adua. Jonathan was humble, didn't have everybody, avoided him. He was like lonely there, not because of Yar'Adua didn't want him or didn't like him, but those who played that politics kind of dumped him. And then when he became relevant, they came back to him, and then he was wise enough to also carry along Sambo in a way that kind of didn't create resentment. So I'm not going to blame Tinubu. It's in the nature of this relationship that you need to get two to tango. You need to, for example, you need to have Zulum. If Zulum, it's clear that Zulum is a proxy for the vice president being his successor and somebody he has worked with and who trust him and represents him well. Then if Zulum is opposing many of government policy, yeah, you're right. It's incumbent on the vice president to have come to order align him. In fact, he should be the first and the most aligned to the presidency, because he is, the son, political son of the guy in the vice presidential seat. So that could be seen as a demerit. That's a sense of, is this guy totally loyal? Again, we don't know at what point, vice presidents who are strong and ambitious begin to think about their succession, how they succeed their principal, and they know that it has been a terrible thing in Nigerian history. Nobody has succeeded in having his vice. In fact, the governors, only few, have got their deputies, accountable to replace them. So that creates itself a unique political pressure. So you don't know whether you're going to get that done by being subservient, being malleable, being like a doormat and take everything, or you're going to do that by also building your own power to contend, when the actions are ready. Again, Tinubu's own approach also to politics is that he's a master of politics, and so day one, the chessboard is on, and people are playing the game, no rebuttal, so many permutations. So it creates a sense in which you see that the possibility of political error, and that's probably what may have happened here. And early enough, some people say, no, this guy is not going to go with us. Information filters in the presidency so quickly, rumor, everything. So people begin to say, okay, if I'm not going to be part of this game, then I have to create an alternative power base, or I'm going to have to make sure these guys get to see that I'm strong and powerful. So what might happen? Clearly, everything points to a fight, a breakout, a real fight, or somebody has to accept that, look, they don't have the powers, they don't have the aces, and they just stand on the goodwill of Mr. President. But the danger here is that both political calculations are changing rapidly in 2027. The notion of stopping Atiku by getting a Northeast is not going to work and won't be heavy there. So the question somebody asks is real politics, forget all the emotion. What will APC gain in this coming fight if they returned Shettima as VP vice versa? What they could get if perhaps they put somebody else from a new senatorial zone, or the political zone, or put somebody else perhaps who has greater capacity to turn those states back to us. Again, another part of it also be the psychological issue, the personalities in the room, the positioning for 2031 after this 2027, who gets to get a ticket, and who becomes the vice president will either be the one who will get it, or one who will be strong enough to change the outcome in 2020 by the end of 2030. So those are some of the calculations. I agree that Shettima's camp, in my view, first played the game badly. They should have started today to put pressure on the president to give some kind of ultimatum. You just have to have, the president decides whether you need to roll with his vice. You know that historically all presidents have done that. It does not mean that President Tinubu will do that. And so that sense in which they have gone to war too early, I think will hurt them. But whether it will also have collateral damage on Tinubu is still speculative. But I think it's not good for the VP, it's not good for the presidential ticket, for the president himself, because you would not want to be talking about succession at this point. You don't want to create a sense that the political bloc is not happy with you. Even if you didn't win that bloc, significantly, you still don't want to start having challenges from that zone, especially in the context of how the political landscape is throwing up a lot of very, very difficult spots for re-election of the president.
Right, Dr. Sam. Now, of course, we know
how the Northeast stakeholders meeting in Gombe ended in commotion. The Northeast vice president endorsing only President Tinubu and omitting VP Shettima. Delegates were even chanting, Shettima's name in protest. Now, looking at all of this and everything you have said so far, should it be based off of the fact that, VP Shettima is the current vice president, and as a result of that, he should automatically be considered to be running alongside President Tinubu, or based off of the work that has been done through his tenure as a vice president? Which factor would you say is most important? And assessing the vice president's midterm scorecard, would you say that there's a very high chance that based off of that scorecard, he could be returning for a second term?
Okay, let me start with the scorecard. The work of like I said, the VPs don't have very clear established schedule of duty. It's what is assigned to them. So far, it seems to me that he has carried himself well. He has been, very good. He has actually amplified and provided, a clearer articulation of Tinubu's program. So each time he has spoken, he has not been found wanted. So in my sense, I would score him high. That he has done well enough to be a loyal part of this ticket in terms of amplification of the views. He has not personally contradicted the message, and he has not been very quarrelsome or posterior, so he has not damaged the ticket in any moral sense. So I think, yes, he has done well in that scorecard, because the scorecard of the VP is basically what he has been asked to do, how he has done it. Now, whether he has contributed to policy, in terms of economic policy making, whether his office has also been effective in dealing with political interventions, also depend on how the presidency works, whether that presidency works collectively or whether the president and his team are doing the work and authorizing and delegating to VP. Now, the question around what should be the consideration for whether he remains in that ticket, in my view, I think, look, people say that the vice president, nobody votes for them. In developed democracies where the issues are clear, the VPs are basically two things they do. An idea that if something happens, an effective guy steps in. And again, oftentimes they are all part of, they bring in other policy arguments, special interests push them in. So like a coalition, you bring a vice president who represents, let's say you are white, male, you bring a vice president who is black, female, or Latino. Now the idea is that you are broadening the character of your presidency. So in the case of Shettima, what should count, in my view, will be two things. One is nobody wants to see a president who is brutal. You brutalize a vice, you drop him for a second time. It sounds too opportunistic, in public domain. But whether that fits into voting is a different thing. And secondly, so you should be okay automatically somehow. This guy who has not been disloyal, who has no history, a public history of antagonism, should be in that ticket. But another thing you consider is also the shifting nature of national politics. I mean, the Muslim ticket was ruffled feathers. Will it ruffle feather again? I'm not too sure. But again, it might be a constituency. Say, okay, now this time around, we've made a mistake and we are not entering into perhaps a more competitive campaign. We need to adjust. So that could be a constituency. Okay, let's respond to political realism here. We tried a yeoman job. We are bullish. It cost us something. Let's change it. It could also be that, look, let's change geopolitics. But really, you have to do the cost-benefit analysis that a brutal presidency that yanks off somebody who is seen as part of the team and loyal would pass a message that this is really opportunism writ large. But again, if that vice president is going to be a drag on the campaign, then you might say, look, we need to respond. So it's in a difficult situation. Many people think that maybe on principle, you need to make that ticket more inclusive, especially with the history of Nigeria's religious conflicts. But again, so people argue in 2023, when it was actually part of Khan, Northern Christian, powerful argument, you didn't respond. So why are you responding now when it seems that everybody has seen the limitations or the reality of that ticket? So what makes it urgent to throw away this guy on that basis? So that would not be convincing. If you look at political potential, who can bring the votes, people generally don't think VPs are that influential in who they vote for, because the history of vice president have not been very consequential, really. But again, it depends on who comes to the ticket. So it's a lot of issues to consider. But I think that most Nigerians will say, if this guy has not been disloyal, if this guy has not done something really outrageous or outlandish or something hurtful, then keep him in the ticket. That has been the pattern. When the politics changes, that's the way I look at it.
Thank you, Dr. Amadi. Now, you said that, this idea of keeping the same ticket, especially when we say we want a more balanced ticket, possibly that both Christians and Muslims are represented, that in 2023, the arguments didn't hold, so why 2027? But I want to ask, has the calculus for 2027 changed? Primarily because the president, the APC, seemed to get a lot of the support in the North Central rather than the Northeast, and also considering the reports that there is a new party forming, the ADA, that's a possible that the coalition between Nasir El-Rufai, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, and others is coming together to form their own party. Do you believe that the calculus for 2027 for President Tinubu would be different, and therefore that he might need to remove his vice president to get a stronger foothold in the North Central? And also considering Tinubu's recent moves and the recent defections that we're seeing, mostly in the South, the governors of both Delta and Akwa Ibom have now left the PDP for the APC. It seems there is consolidation of power for the APC in the South. Do you expect that will happen in the North Central, and do you expect that the calculus is different now?
Yeah, I think it's slightly different. You're right. Okay, so let's take the North Central. The North Central was a zone. Tinubu won the North Central because of Niger State, and I think Kwara State, Kogi State, where he did Kogi, Kwara, Niger, he did extremely well. Obi won Abuja, Plateau, Nasarawa. So I think basically was missing in the North Central. Okay, so the North Central is also a place that Tinubu will fancy that they could win more, because this government has been better to middle belt than minus the attacks by headers, terrorist groups from Benue and Nasarawa, where the government has played politics than been, decisive. But if you look at Nigerian politics of POC, allocations, appointments, head of the military, Kuka, pro-chancellor, citing of universities in southern Kaduna, the governor of Kaduna doing well to create a sense of inclusion. I think there's a lot that the president can build on, and getting a vice president for that zone, especially if a P2B is not running or is not even strong, could sway a lot to get some of the middle belt Christian votes back to the ticket. So I think any Tinubu strategist would fancy that an option and say, look, what do we lose if we have a Muslim Southern Tinubu and a Christian North Central, which is a zone that has unfortunately not had anybody as vice president or president since 1999, just like in the Southeast. So the Northeast and the Southeast are two zones that could say they've not got that opportunity. So if Tinubu picks somebody, Christian from North Central, I think it will enhance the inroad that but the question then is, what could it cost Tinubu? Because election is plus minus. You add, you look at what you're subtracting. Did the Muslim ticket play big, giving him major wins in some of the Muslim-dominated Northeast, Northwest? It seems to me, yes, that in spite of all the propaganda, the issues that came up, some of them very true, some of them not true against Tinubu, that the idea of Muslim strengthened that ticket in the corner zone, because they felt, oh yes, this is, Nigeria is governed largely by religious enthusiasm and fanaticism and sentiment more than real economic political outcomes that people get every day. But the other argument that, having seen this the last 2 years, that enthusiasm that the Muslim ticket would simply mean maybe writing Quran on Nigerian constitution didn't work out. So there's some realism that, look, maybe this is not really what we want. Maybe we misplace our faith. So if Tinubu pulls away and get a Muslim, Christian, one can argue that it will probably not hurt him much with northern voters who may have other reasons to stand with him. So I think that this, in politics, it's like you're doing analytics. You place values on odds and factors. And I hope that the value you place on factor, the value you place on what a North Central VP can deliver really happens. Because if we misplace those values, they will get the wrong outcome. So I would say, yes, it's really an attractive option to say that gives us North Central. And if we're able to win South, the South, the entire South, then we can do very well in the Northeast and Northwest, and we'll have the election. But again, this is the issue here. The people are not factoring the fact that voting in Nigeria, as people get wiser, more educated, as younger voters who are not enamored of ethnicity and religion and all these calculations get into the bag. to be illiterate. It changes. That's why a P2B could, in less than a few months, get a 6 million. I remember talking to some leaders of PDP then. I said, look, what they said, no, he can't get more than 2 million votes, because they say, where is his constituency? Who are his senators, councillors? But what it showed us was that the Nigerian young voters, most of the upcoming voters, are not really going to vote on those considerations. They're going to vote on a sense of who they think can satisfy their own expectation. And many of them might be thinking more about transparency, anti-corruption. So at the end of the day, we might discover that these configurations will not really deliver anything. That even in the South, where Tinubu seems to have captured in terms of the big guys who are lining up, the governors who are the campaign, for example, with Dïrty, where even Okowa was a vice president, he was a governor, but he was beaten thoroughly by P2B. On what basis? There were no councillors. On the basis that people basically said, we want to change. So the 2027 election will be defined by how much will this sense of liberation, people feel free to make their choices, how much will it play? If it plays big, especially in southern Nigeria, it might be that one of the planks of a Tinubu strategic plan, which is get the south, mostly southwest, get them into the bag, and then head to North Central, win big there, then fight in northeast and northwest, then you are won. It might be that you might be fighting there and discover that you are losing big in south. Based on, again, who is the alternative? Who is the alternative? And what is the messaging? People are getting now to say, you know what, we want to vote the person we want. The other rider is INEC. We're going to have free and fair election. If you do have free and fair, meaning election where votes are counted, accurately reported, result declared based on those votes, not based on any technology hitches or whatever, then it might be that essentially these calculations go off the roof. But again, I think it makes sense from a strategic perspective that the Tinubu would find a way to cut North Central, and so far he's doing fairly better than Buhari did with them in terms of appointments and support projects. He could build on that by giving them the vice president, and that might work for them, considering that they have suffered a lot in this country in terms of in the last since 2015. They've been part of it, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you very.
All right, guys, we have come to the end of this video. So what's your take on this? Please, let's hear from you. Drop your comment below the comment section, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye for now.